Oh, dearest of Vernons, I woke up about a month ago, probably 2 months ago. I looked in the mirror and I was like, what is this pod bod? What's happening here?
What is a pod bod? Please inform me. Enlighten me,
Actually,
good sir.
I need to share this because it's actually about dad bod. It's not for to me. I was on the track on the turf the other day. I was
Uh,
stretching, and this kid was next to me, and like two 12-year-olds or maybe younger were next to each other. They're talking about working out, and the kid actually had some really good advice. The kid goes, I'm not trying to get a six pack right now. I think for me, it's more about getting stronger. When I get older, I'll get a six pack. But right now, I just need to work on my general strength. And I was like, holy shit.
that is
Really,
awesome.
well, trying to record this. Like, some good advice. And he goes, here's a really good app that my dad uses. And, he's got what they call it a dad bod, a body that's not in really good shape. And he's talking to his friend about this. And he's explaining to his friend what a dad bod is. And it's probably like the cutest thing ever because it's very innocent how to explain it. He goes, my dad's not really into lifting the heavy. He says he has some few pounds he needs to lose.
So so I'm gonna hit you with a story. So about when the dad bod thing first kicked off, what was that, like a year or two ago?
No, that
Like,
was like 4 years ago.
was it that years
I
ago?
was in college, I think.
Okay,
Like
so
7 years ago.
so there was a so at the oceanfront here at Virginia Beach, they had dad bod competitions that summer, where dad bod
Oh God.
where people with a dad bod would go up on stage and whatever. And a couple of my friends were trying to get me to do it. And they were like, Vernon, let's get Vernon to lose a bet so he has to go do a dad bod. And then everyone will go and support him. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I almost got stuck in it. But the funny thing is I came home that day and I was joking around with my wife. And I was like, yeah, the guys are trying to get me to do this dad bod competition. It'll be funny and hilarious, whatever. And then my daughter, just innocent, not knowing what it was. I mean, if it was 4 years ago, maybe she was 10 around that time. She goes, Dad, what do you care for? You're not like you're not gonna win any competition. Like, she said it kind of like that. And my wife was like, do you know what a dad bod is, Carson? And she was like, no, but dad doesn't have like a six pack or anything. And she was like, my wife, I can't remember what she said specifically, but it was something on the lines of, Carson, a dad bod is like, you kind of look like you work out, but you kind of don't. And my daughter like kind of paused for a second and she was like, oh yeah, dad, you got that.
Oh, guaranteed you're gonna win it. I love the twist of no way, Dad, you can't win anything to like the logical processing of you got a good chance on that one, Dad. We should go. Did you enter it?
No, I did not. I did not. But we'll get one more. I saw this shirt the other day that said, "It's not a dad bod. I'm just a good father figure."
Oh my gosh. Oh, now speaking of dad bod, Vernon once called me on this podcast not in as great a shape as I could be. I actually don't know if he actually said this. I just continue to make up lies about what Vernon told me.
Well, there was that one time you posted that hurdle jump picture.
I don't know if you've seen it lately. I am torched. I have like 8 abs right now. And by the way, that hurdle pick, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of look beefed out, like
I
a
mean,
tank.
more like a pasty polar bear, but sure,
If I had
I'll
a
give you.
tan in that pick, people would have thought other things. I'm surprised it didn't boost my followers by just tens of thousands, just from the sheer twisted steel sex appeal kind of thing that Vernon so likes
Uh,
to put.
the
But the point is,
the jacked Anne Hathaway of strength and conditioning.
yeah, basically now I'm shredded. Let's just get to the point here. And for some reason, I'm probably gonna get more shredded so I can take a picture and post on the gram of just being ignited by this fire that Vernon lit of calling me a semi out of shape polar bear. Um, but whatever. No offense taken. All offense taken. Point is, I'm losing weight, and it's an interesting process because there is a calories in, calories out situation, right? That's how you lose weight. You have less calories in than you have out.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is that people come across, in my opinion, is when they lose weight, they go, okay, less calories in, more calories out. And they do more calories out by working out more. And then they eat less. And then they get so damn tired in 3 weeks that they don't ever actually lose the weight they wanted to. I think there's a big issue with thinking weight loss has to be synonymous with increased exercise. I would actually argue weight loss should go with a paralleled exercise program, but you actually extend the rest intervals and the work itself. Make it slightly less taxing because you're eating less calories that were otherwise there to replenish and restore you. And so I ran into this the other day because I went to this new gym I was working out at, and there were 1,000 machines, and I was like, oh, I gotta try them all. And then I basically died the next day. And because my calories in did not come near to calories out, it was a horribly one-sided deal. And so I think that's something that's very important for us to realize for people who work with, people who want to change their figure at all, that it's a process. It's a slow, meticulous process that I'll soon come out of my cocoon of the basement I'm here at right now and showcase the butterfly of abs. What a bizarre analogy. But you get what I'm saying.
Max is a metapod right now.
Yes, exactly. I am a metapod. I was a caterpie, and now I'm a metapod. Actually, you know what? I'm more like I was a Weedle, and now I'm a Kakuna.
Okay.
Because Beedrill is the far cooler Pokemon, but infinitely less effective.
You're more of a Butterfree to me.
Fun fact, when I was a little kid, we had, I don't know why we had this. We had like a Monarch. Someone was like a play once, and we had like a Monarch costume. And I was so lazy for Halloween, I just wore this Monarch costume.
Yep.
For like years on years on years. And the joke was I became a buff Monarch because it was so tight fitting on me. I remember just not giving a flying F. I was in it for the damn candy. I didn't give two shits what anyone else thought. I'm here for the candy. Respect my Monarch outfit. Give it me my Snickers bar.
So this metapod metaphor, or whatever it is obviously a lot deeper than I initially intended upon my joke. This is deep rooted in the Schmarzo heritage, as he will emerge from the metapod as the buffer free.
The buffer free. Oh my gosh, I got a great story. That's an unbelievable pun. The buffer free. I'm not sure if I can follow that. But oh my gosh.
I think so. Going off what you said about the diet and the right things.
Before we do that, though, I'm going to share a tangent of a story, because that's how this podcast's been going. Before I ruin everything, my little sister we're going to church one morning, and it was like, I don't know what was happening, but she had to wear something nice that day. She was wearing she was little, very little. She must have been 4. And my mom goes, don't come out of that closet until you have something on from in there. And in there was all of her dresses and stuff. And she comes out in a Bumblebee Halloween costume because it was placed in there. And we went to church with her in a Bumblebee costume.
Oh my God.
My mom just gave up completely. So speaking of just great, hilarious situations, I don't think I've laughed so hard my entire life. But yes, going back to weight loss, Vernon, please enlighten me.
So a lot of the, I guess you would say, general population clients that, many people that might be listening to this work with, it's whenever someone asks me, like you said, the nutrition in, exercise out type concepts. And it's always such big concepts, such big rocks. And I was like, I've had so much success with clients and personally that it's just small nudges. Like, it's not anything like drastic right out of the gate, unless you're trying something new, like a new program, then obviously that may be perceived as drastic. But those small nudges for those lifestyle changes is what most of the people that I work with, that we talk about. Like, I want to develop new lifestyle, new habits, not necessarily you just starting a diet to get results, to get something. It's like, hey, let's think long term. Let's not think mile 1. Let's think mile 13. Like, that's kind of the mindset I try to get across to people.
How do you initiate this? Do you just tell them off the bat to not eat any more carbs? Is that how that works?
No, no. Oh my God. So I guess this is where this is
A
going.
slight nudge.
But it's that concept of, oh, I can't eat any more carbs, or I can't eat pizza, or I can't have a beer. And I'm like, dude, no. Like, no, I'll never forget. I was working with this teenage volleyball travel team years ago, and they had a nutritionist come in to talk to their team, and they said they couldn't eat strawberries because there was too much sugar in them. And I literally looked at one of the parents.
Oh boy.
I looked at one of the parents and I said, if you guys ever bring that nutritionist in to talk to these girls again, I will personally go up there and have a confrontation. Like, you're talking about girls that already probably have bad eating habits, telling them that they can't eat strawberries because there's too much sugar in them. Sure, don't go eat 17 bushels of strawberries because it's probably going to give you diarrhea. But outside of that, like, are you kidding me? They're picking strawberries over Cheez-Its, and God else knows what else they're eating. Like, I had someone one time say they couldn't eat carrots because there was too much sugar in them.
Oh
I'm
no.
not kidding. And I said, the only person that better ever tell you you can't eat carrots because there's too much sugar in them better have veins in their abs. Like, you better be so ripped that you have a vein going across your abs that you can't eat a damn carrot because there's sugar in it.
Well,
Like,
pretty soon, according to Vernon, I'm gonna be able to give recommendations. I don't know if you guys are aware, but this metapod is about to be revealed. So I'm about to be certified recommending people things because these ab veins are just abundant at the moment. But yes, great point. And it's a point actually that was propagated by what's called glycemic index versus glycemic load. Now,
yes.
glycemic index is the rate at which the carbohydrate is turned into blood glucose in your blood. So it's basically the conversion rate. And the idea was glycemic index, foods that have sugars that rapidly turn into blood glucose have the potential to spike steady blood glucose. And again, it was a cascade of events that would lead to diabetes. In theory, this was the initial theory. And they realized glycemic index doesn't make much sense. You'd rather look at glycemic load because carrots themselves don't actually have that much sugar. And so while the sugar that does exist inside of a carrot does present itself quickly into the blood glucose, to turn into blood glucose quickly, so the index is high, the amount of sugar is actually very low. So the total glycemic load is low. Think about like a white piece of bread. That's very high glycemic index because it quickly turns into blood glucose and blood sugar, right? For those of you at home. And for those in the amount of carbohydrates is very high. So the high glycemic index is present. Now, the interesting quote unquote sport nutrition biohack discussion is whether or not these are even bad to have, but also when could you have them? Because glycemic load, being that it increases the rate of blood glucose in the blood, in theory, what happens when you exercise, you have a lower insulin response. The GLUT4 receptors translocate to the muscle, basically a wall, the cell wall, meaning they move towards that area. And that's what takes in blood sugar. A contracting muscle itself can take in glucose without insulin being present. And so maybe we'd want to increase our ability to have blood glucose or blood sugar, or increase the amount while we're exercising, because it can, in theory, spare the glycogen inside of there, at least allocate some of the resources to the contractile system. In turn, this allows, because you're contracting your muscles, a lower presence of insulin. And this is a conjunction with potentially being blunted by things like catecholamines that are present as well. And so the idea is maybe during a workout or even 10 minutes before, you should have that high glycemic load. You should have it right after potentially too, because it's going to quickly restore the what's it called, the glycogen in the muscle. But you don't necessarily want to have high glycemic loads before bed, because in theory, if it causes a rapid spike and a rapid dip, well, then we have those quote unquote, in theory, the sugar cravings, and that's where it kind of stemmed from. You might want to have something more stable at bedtime that allows for a slower excretion rate into the blood. And so things like higher in fiber, you can actually slow the glycemic load, or essentially lower it by eating things with fiber in conjunction with it. So If you eat like a salad, because the salad has a lot of fibers that are insoluble and need to be digested and broken down, it will lower the gastric emptying rate and in turn reduce the amount of blood glucose present. So science.
So for, I guess, when it comes, I know that nutrition is one of your things, Max. You love it. You're definitely well educated on the,
I eat lots of pizza. I do love it.
But so when it comes to, I guess, coaches, trainers out there, maybe just recreational lifters that are working out, and they get these questions about, hey, what should I do nutritional wise? What are some of the things that I guess you promote? So I'll just lead it off to give you a chance to get your thoughts together. But something I always ask people to do is to create a food log. Like literally before we start talking about, because I'm not a nutritionist, so I don't provide values and numbers. I don't. But we can talk about what type of food you're eating and when you're eating them. But the power of a food log is so powerful. And if you don't want to, and then on top of a food log is taking pictures of your food, because most people don't realize the amount of food that they're eating. So I think that the food log is so powerful because then people start to look at food, as you're saying, as energy, as something that's used as fuel, rather than just it's something that's a habit that we consume things. So that's something I always like to do, is ask for a food log, just to kind of keep track of it. And a lot of the problems that people have get cleaned up simply from them being more aware of what they're eating, actually. Mm-hmm. And then from there, it's like, okay, well, this is what you normally eat. Okay, what can we add in? What are you missing? What could you eat around a workout? When's the last time you're eating? When's the first time you're eating? What are things that, maybe you can substitute to get a little bit more, nutritional density with your foods? Like, that's things that I like to add in. So for you, with your clients, and when you're asked, what are things that you would provide, I guess, from that sort of that educational standpoint?
Well, my previous spot, luckily, I worked directly with a registered dietitian, and they did blood work and they did detailed aspects that I had no involvement in. And so I learned a lot, but I would not have a say because I know where to defer, because that was very detailed. It was medical. It was a whole group of docs and everything. But there were some very different, like what you said is great. Self-education is number one. Being aware. Don't be afraid of a fat. Don't be afraid of a carb. Don't be afraid of a protein. Understand carbs are fuel, fats can be fuel, and they're building blocks, and protein is important too. On that same token, the more you can teach someone what they're doing, the more they can realize easy things to avoid. Maybe I should sub out my Cheetos for carrots. Maybe I should, I should not have, 9 servings of potato chips and one's okay. Those kind of things. Then there's always the question of supplementation. I think protein's one of those omni-beneficial aspects. I think creatine's massively important. Creatine's great for your brain. They use it for post-concussion issues. There's a lot of stuff in regards to its relationship with Alzheimer's and potential mitigation of cognitive decline. So it's hugely important from that standpoint. I think there's a lot of benefits of seeing a nutritionist who you like and enjoy. So you might want to see someone who you have a rapport with, right? Because maybe I, the trainer, have a rapport with someone else, but that client doesn't really like how they talk about food. So understanding what kind of person your client might respond to could be beneficial, and getting them involved with someone. So an example would be, I had someone reach out to me, someone I knew very well, and they wanted nutritional advice, but they were vegan. And I said, well, I'm not a vegan. I don't know. Like, why I'd be really bad at doing this. So I found someone who works with athletes at that level who is a vegan, and they work with making sure vegans get the right food and the right supplements. And I'm like, I'm not good for that, but I know where you can find someone good. Yeah. So strengthening your network. And then other things as well, like talking to them about, why are you a vegan? Is this, ethically you want to be a vegan? Does it make you feel better? Is it something you read? Where does this stem from? And as a vegan, and how long have you been on this? So if someone's even like any diet, oh, I'm on this, I'm on that, I'm trying this. Just understanding where this comes from. because sometimes there's ethical things involved, and you don't want to, push those buttons because that's what someone is not going to budge on. But
Sure.
maybe it's because someone read a Men's Health magazine article that was a good article, but they misinterpreted it and, whatever. Or they read somewhere X, Y, and Z. The number of people that I've met who've gone keto, for example, because they themselves maybe slightly misunderstood, or intermittent fasting is even a better example, slightly misunderstood the purpose of it. Then you go, okay, well, let's try and elucidate the problem elucidate your problem that you're trying to solve, and maybe there's another route we can solve it through.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think that as coaches, I almost feel empowered to refer out to other professionals, whereas I think too many, especially young coaches, are so eager to prove their worth that they feel like they need to have all the answers. And it's almost like if I went to a doctor and a doctor legitimately was like, hey, Mr. Griffith, I don't know, man. Like, I'm going to call one of my colleagues and we're going to figure this out. I'd be like, holy shit, man. Okay, awesome. Like that actually is quite relieving in my opinion, versus you being like, yeah, well, we're going to try this and this and this and that and this. And I'm like, dude, you have no plan. At least the other plan is somewhat like I have a good outcome potentially. Your plan is like, you're just shooting a shotgun and a barrel of fish and hoping you get one. Like, so the having a network is huge. So I love that you said that. And then as well, not being afraid to refer out, not being afraid to be like, hey man, I don't have these answers. Like, I don't know what a vegan, I don't know anything about a vegan diet, but I know people that could probably give you a lot better information than me fumbling through something.
Yeah, and that's just knowing. Also, there's so much complexity too. So the adamancy, and as a coach, we should really understand nutrition. But there's a lot of adamancy towards, I guess tribalism may be a better word in nutrition. And it's like, okay, it's very confusing, guys. Like, there's a group that says, oh, the gut biome's the most important thing, or only eating this or this type of food or this here and this when. Because it might be one of the most complex topics, I feel like it's unfortunately done one of two things. People will go completely hands off, or they think they know it all and they go completely hands on. And I think both is unfortunate, because I think those that know a lot go hands off because they're like, fuck this. Like,
yeah,
I don't want to do this. Like, this is confusing. And the guys, or men or women who think they know it all, go full hands on. And we'll just do this, this, and this, and this is exactly how you do it. And I honestly feel like the first of the two, because it's like I know a lot, but I don't know, because I almost know I know too much. Like, it's like I don't know where my lane is anymore. Like, at what point does this transverse into a different category? And I don't know comfortably what that would be. Did I overstep my boundaries by doing this, this, and this? And as a nutritionist or a registered dietitian, are you overstepping your boundaries because glucose is a hormone? And now technically you're kind of an endocrinology if you're talking about insulin and glucose, and you're talking about thyroid, and you're talking about testosterone. And then have you gone too far? But then the doctor who does the thyroid and hormone testosterone stuff knows nothing about nutrition. And so it's like, I don't know where the lane is and stops and starts. I don't know what's right and wrong.
I mean, shoot, you start getting down a tremendous rabbit hole with those sort of Pandora's boxes. But I mean, you're right. And especially with like social media, it's almost like there's more of the second, because the individuals that are actually very knowledgeable kind of stay away from the sharing of information on the platform. So all you get to digest is the people that are very one-sided in their opinions. And I definitely see this with strength and conditioning as well. But to keep it nutritional, that's what it is. You see the more biased opinions rather than the open-minded, thought, provoking conversations that should be had, I would say. And I think, I mean, this is, I'm not trying to make a crazy statement, but there is a lot of social media of people know just enough to be dangerous now. Like that is a lot of what's shared, is like people know just enough to be dangerous of what they're providing from an informational standpoint. And that's sort of the more popular people that have material that is digested by more of the masses.
Maybe our next guest is a dietitian, nutritionist, someone of that nature. That'd be a good one, someone to get on.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that.
I would love to poke and prod some of the areas, because the fact of the matter is, we think in the medical world everything is known.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean, not we in the medical world, but we as non-medical people perceive anyone with an MD knows exactly what they're saying. But if you've ever spoken and understand those detailed sciences, like I can tell you, I read about endocrinology for sport, and they don't know all the details of it. So I highly doubt they know every detail for health and wellness. And so the fact is, for some reason, it seems like strength and conditioning isn't held to that level of absoluteness. Like people understand, like, oh, there's this way to do it and that way to do it. But the higher up and closer you get to medical, the more egotistical and absolutist it becomes, even though it's not. And this is just perception from my side. You see people who are really smart docs or guys like, oh, we think this is best. And when they hear think, that's a great way to put it. Yeah. But when you hear docs or admin, we know this is best. Or and like, I'm not hating on doctors per se, like a medical doctor, but a doctor of nutrition, a doctor of even strength and conditioning. For sure. That doctor title carries an absoluteness with it. You must know what you say is like, it's someone, I think it was like Lane Norton pointed out, like the number of doctor of psychologists that have written nutrition books is like astounding because they put like doctor so-and-so and like, it's like, that's not a doctor of nutrition. That's a psychologist. Like, what is this? And I thought it was funny how you pointed it out. There's a bunch of books of people who are written by like nutritionists, or someone who wrote one was someone who looks at the renal system. What is that? A nephrologist? Is that someone who looks at, I don't know, kidneys? Something like that. I'm getting them all mixed up. Whatever. The point is, they wasn't like a nutritionist. And I thought it was very interesting from that standpoint, because we see doctor, we assume they must know everything that they're saying. But there's a disagreement amongst doctors and how we do things.
Yeah. No, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, think about what their field is. It's most doctors have a practice where they practice what they're doing. Like, it's an imperfect field that you should be constantly looking to, you're working with complex human beings. I had a question on my IG live or IG thing, a week or so ago that was like, it was like something like, what's a piece of advice you could give for coaches working out? And I was like, humans are very complex, proceed with caution. Every human is different. And so every input could have a different output, and you should be not, obviously, I don't expect you to know everything. Like, I don't know everything. But it's that.
Are you sure?
But, different inputs have different outputs. So, and being open-minded to that, not being biased to, one standpoint or one viewpoint that you may currently be reading on or stand on a board for. Like, there's a lot of right ways to do things. We actually just talked about that, I guess.
Let me just read a quote for you from a book. I read about it in a book.
Oh.
I don't know the title of the book. I apologize. So if you're out there, author, feel free to yell at me. So it's talking about, it's actually a review of a book. It says, to Sterling, an allostatic system is one in which the set points that govern internal state, such as the target range of blood pressure that the body attempts to protect, are not static, but shift in response to both acute and sustained changes. When systems are forced to operate outside their normal range, this is metabolically costly, but it also reduces the sensitivity of the system by pushing it into the fringes of its detection limits. When this deviation is sustained, the body compensates by recentering the system on this outlier state, a process of continually rematching outputs to expected inputs. Sterling's model of allostasis, then systems are indeed self-correcting, but not in the classical sense of homeostatic system defending a static internal state, rather a regulatory system adjust their structure to maximize their efficiency and sensitivity as the ranges under which they are forced to operate shift. And so it's the idea that we have changes that take place, but those changes that take place are an expectance to the environment, whether it's building muscle, whether it's high blood pressure. It's costing the body a lot to get there and sustain it to this new outlier state. An example would be you want to keep your room at 70 degrees, but it's negative 20 outside and you leave the window on. So how hot and how hard is that heater working just to maintain 70 degrees? It's working much harder than if the window was closed. So it is now changed that heater working set point to much, much higher because it knows the window's open outside, it has to work. And eventually, chronically, if that happens, the heater will think its new normal is to work super duper hard. And then it burns out and it crashes. That's the concept of allostasis, the concept of adaptation, the cost of adaptation, and why all this shit's really damn confusing. Because like all of it comes down to chronic exposure, set point modification, why no single biometric is going to be the end all be all, because biometrics themselves compensate, move up, down, left, right, based on its surrounding interfering biometrics that are involved with it.
I mean, stop blowing my mind, Max. But dude, that's extremely well put, man. And
I just read about it in a book.
But that I mean, it really helps to put that concept. Sometimes you hear metaphors or analogies that are just like, oh, that makes so much sense because when you can relate it just to, I mean, thinking about my house, I mean, damn, man, that sort of load on the system, like that can be very taxing over, the long period of time chronically. So no, dude, I really like that.
It's good. You're gonna basically cost you a lot of money, or it's gonna break your heater.
Yeah, but
so that's what happens in the body, right? The body set point, it wants to maintain survival. It's gonna maintain normal, but it's gonna turn that heater on really damn high, and you can't maintain a heater that hot. And when the minute your heater thinks that's normal, it's a real pain in the ass to get that thing back down because you got to close the window. Because the minute you close the window, what happens? You heat up.
Yeah.
Right? So you can't just close the window. You have to reset the set point. And that's the idea of it. Very interesting topic. Interesting concept. We might just end it on that note right there.
Yeah. No, that was good, man. Shoot, man. Great information, Max. Damn.
Yeah, we have one. We do have one submission for our ad read-ins. For those of you at home,
who do we got? Who do we got today?
Tiffany's Travel Tubs. Are you moving anywhere anytime soon? Do you need a tub to put stuff in? Don't bother with boxes. Boxes break. Tubs last forever. At least for the most part. They're not very biodegradable. They're not very environmentally friendly. And if you bury them, you can probably dig them up again. Terry's Travel Tubs. Fill up your tub and hit the road. We'll take care of the rest.
Oh, my God, Max. I've missed the read-in so much, my friend.
Oh, they're very excited. We have a couple from Samantha's ceilings. The only thing more important than the floor is the ceiling above your head. Samantha's ceilings make sure that these are sturdy, durable, and made to your liking. Do you want it vaulted? Do you want it glass? It doesn't matter. Samantha's ceilings will kick that ass. Come on in to Samantha's ceilings, and we're going to make sure the roof on your head is better than the floor on your feet. All right. None of them offer discount codes, apparently. They just arbitrary ad reads. Appreciate you guys listening. God. And I hope you all enjoyed.
Yeah. Y'all have a good day. Later.
Yeah.